Hello and welcome to TelecomTV. I'm Martin Warwick and we are on location in The Hague in the Netherlands at the SDN and NFV World Congress 2017. I'm talking with Dr. Ashiq Khan, who is Assistant Manager responsible for 5G core network research and standardization at NTT DOCOMO. Ashiq, good to see you again. Thanks for talking to us. That's quite a remit you've got there for your job title. It must encompass a lot. You must be a busy man.
Yes, it's also a great opportunity.
Let's get straight into this then. It's 5 years since the first NFV white paper was published. In your view, where are we now in terms of the viability of the technology itself and the adoption of it by CSPs?
With great confidence, I can say that we are at the intermediate stage. So it started 5 years ago. At the beginning, we did the white paper, we started the standardization, we created the standards. And in this year's NFV World Congress, through many of the presentation, I guess you also saw how many companies have adopted NFV and they're using it in their commercial network.
We're 5 years in, and there's been some discussion in the industry moderately recently that some people are saying this is taking longer than we expected with NFV, and we thought we'd be up and running everywhere within this 5 year time frame. But you know and I know, and lots of people know, that in telecommunications 10 years is the norm for a transformation of the sort that's being attempted now, maybe even longer. So what do you make of the fact that some people are saying it should be going faster? Is it possible to speed it up?
Definitely. NFV is a leap comparing to the existing way of networking, the way we used to do networking before. So it takes time, and the time from the completion of a standard to its consequent commercial rollout is actually very short. So I think people are still waiting a little bit for the standards to be completed, and we are very close to the completion. And as I said before, we are at the intermediate stage. From there to go to the advanced stage will take much shorter time.
Now, ultimately, this transformation journey, this massive transformation journey, is all about CSPs being able to deliver a better customer experience. How are SDN and NFV going to help you gain the best possible insight into the current and future needs of your customers?
I'll give you an argument from network slicing point of view. It's a very new concept. It will, for the first time, exploit the full potential of NFV and SDN. If you look at it, when we started NFV, the main use case was cost reduction. We wanted to consolidate the hardware, decouple the software from the hardware, and share that hardware resources to reduce cost. But now we are getting into what we call network slicing, which is an end-to-end, logically isolated network on the same network infrastructure. The network infrastructure is still the same. It's a single physical hardware platform. So once we get there, we'll get much more flexibility. It's not only cost reduction anymore. NFV will enable us, will give us more flexibility to accommodate verticals. Verticals are a key element in our future network business, because the more number of verticals we can support, we can accommodate into our network, the higher revenue sources we will have from both sides, from the vertical's point of view, from a network service provider point of view.
It's also been mentioned here, I've spoken to several people who've said this, I think, which is, yes, it's great saving costs, it's very nice CapEx and OpEx costs, that's fine, but you're never going to become a millionaire or a very rich company simply by saving costs. You have to do something more to make more money. Will SDN and NFV enable CSPs to do that?
Yes. I mean, I cannot agree more. You cannot sustain a technology or solution or whatever just because it is cheap. You have to find out a way of adding value. So NFV and SDN, when you combine them together, they create what I just said before, network slices, an end-to-end network. NFV, if you look at it, the primary place where we are using NFV is the cloud. And it is confined within a cloud. We have to take it beyond the cloud to a multi-cloud distributed scenario. And that's when, through the flexibility, we'll be able to operate the network in a much easier and a cost-efficient way, along with new revenue sources. So that's where I see NFV and SDN will show us, will give us its full potential.
What else do you think needs to change to ensure that you can provide your customers with the best possible experience? We've covered part of it. What else is there?
Customers, each and every customer, they have different requirements. If you look at the 5G service spectrum, the total landscape, it ranges from mission critical V2X application to high volume immersive communication to very narrow band but massive number of MTC IoT application. They all come with different flavors and very different requirements. For some you need a fat bandwidth pipe, for some you need very low latency and high reliability. So far we couldn't provide those, or let's say it's very difficult to accommodate those different types of services in a single physical infrastructure. We needed something in a very cost-efficient way as well. So NFV and SDN, as they can isolate the infrastructure into multiple segments, I can optimize one of those segments for a very particular service. Let's say for an ultra-low latency service where I create a network right on the edge. In a mobile telecom network, all traffic goes to a centralized node, what we call an anchor node, and then it comes back. That's a long route to travel. But NFV, SDN, and the consequent network slicing is giving us this flexibility of creating software-based network wherever we want to, and to fulfill the purpose and objective of a vertical. That's a huge flexibility advantage.
We're hearing more and more now that NFV is maturing, we're hearing more and more about, well, always about cloudification, but we're hearing a lot about AI, about machine learning, and about automation, and increasingly zero touch as well. What do these concepts and technologies mean in the context of network transformation, and how important will they be down the road?
With NFV, SDN, network slicing, the network is getting a bit more complex because you have more number of elements, software elements in the form of, it's an example, hypervisor, you have guest OS. These are new elements that you need to manage, configure, and run. And if you go into network slicing, that means instead of operating one single network, what we were doing so far, you will be running and operating multiple, sometimes 8, 20, hundreds of networks at the same time. That's a lots of complexity, and complexity results into cost. We need to reduce cost. I see there are two ways we can address that challenge. One is you have to reduce the complexity, make it simple. Not too much of dynamicity in the infrastructure operation. And the other one is automation. If it's simple, it's easier to automate. So the zero-touch automation, as I'm a network operator and what I work on, I will put it in the context of simplifying the network operation itself.
Good, thank you. Now, we've looked at in some detail at the technology of SDN and other things. Let's move on to a slightly different sort of question. I'd like to start with this one. What has surprised you the most in the 5-year journey to NFV so far?
Very good question, I like it. It is the maturity of the HCNFV standard and the consequent solutions being developed, provided by the suppliers and vendors. And I have a very good reason for saying that. DOCOMO has commercialized virtualized EPC on HCNFV standard 1.5 years ago. It is running fine. It is serving thousands of customers at the moment. VEPC is a very mission critical application, and HCNFV architecture and standard can support that. So I am quite pleased to see the maturity of the standard and the solutions that are coming with it.
Now, if you could borrow the TelecomTV time machine, I mean, not just anybody use it, and change one thing over the past 5 years, what would it be?
I would try to put more effort in the communication in between the standardization community and the solution developers, be it open source, be it a vendor or a supplier. They are complementing. They can very easily and with great effect complement each other. A standard does not dictate how a piece of software will be designed, coded, and tested. All it says that what kind of API a software module should expose so that can be consumed by its peering software module in an end-to-end network. Telecom network is inherently end-to-end. Interoperability is the most challenging thing we have. So an open source solution or any solution should take a reference from the standards to make the consequent integration task easier for a network operator.
Ashiq, a final question to you, which is this. Predicting anything in this world is foolish. Predicting things in telecommunications can be downright stupid. But having said that, given that we're sort of 5 years into this total transformation process and we know things are going to change massively with everything that we've been talking about, what do you think the transformed network is going to look like in 5 years' time?
I'll put my argument from an user perspective, because everything as a network operator does is to make the life richer, safer, easier for an end customer. So 5G is on the horizon. DOCOMO is planning to roll out our 5G commercial service in 2020 to coincide it with the Tokyo Olympic. So the enormous amount of capacity, the low latency characteristics we'll get from 5G, we will be able to create far better, more personal services and network experience for our end customers in collaboration with our verticals.
Really good interview, I enjoyed it. Dr. Ashiq Khan, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for having me.